And the city never sleeps. The magic in the air so deep. We chase the moments, make them last. The future mirrors all the...
Welcome to the Icons Edit, your front row to fashion, film and pop culture. I'm your host, Dawn Anna Williamson, and on today's show we have a massive icon of fashion, the one and only Marc Jacobs. And for such a huge icon, I needed a huge expert, so I got one all the way from Boston. Lauren is here today. Lauren Pyes is okay, how do you describe yourself? I would say you're a creator, you're a commentator, you're an archivist. How would you describe?
Oh gosh, Dawn, well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. And
You're
second,
very welcome.
I would say that is entirely too generous. I really just think of myself as someone who's a fan of fashion and who is someone who wants to have a conversation about it and who's turned to social media to do that.
Yeah, which of course is such a great vehicle, and I did the same thing because we're here to talk about icons, and I would say that in terms of fashion there is very few greater icons than Marc Jacobs.
Yeah.
So that's our subject for today. We're going to be talking about Marc Jacobs. We're going to be talking about his career. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite pieces, collections, give you some trivia that you probably don't even know. But first, I want to know, Lauren, where did you fall in love with Marc? Where did it start?
Dawn, I can clock it to the day. It was December 27th, 2006. It was when I bought my first Marc by Marc Jacobs piece. It was actually a really big day for me fashion-wise. I bought my first ever designer handbag, which was the Dior Rasta handbag.
Wow.
Which like that.
And you bought that when it launched. You bought it off the floor when it was in stores.
It was on sale. If you can believe that, that Dior Rasta bag was on sale, and I bought it with
I didn't even think they ever put Dior on sale.
I don't know how, I don't know why, but I bought it with a wad of $5 bills because I had squirreled away my lunch money.
I love that.
Fashion girly thing. And so that was my first Marc memory, but then my second one was when I went to Paris for the first time. It was my first Marc memory, but then my second one was when I went to Paris for the first time. I had the incredible privilege of going to the Chanel Couture Atelier, and that should have been...
Wow. We could talk about that for 4 hours.
Yeah, so that should have been the experience, right? But then later that day, my mom and I went to the Louis Vuitton boutique on the Champs-Élysées, and I saw his spring 2007 collection, and there was a pair of shoes I fell in love with, and that was it.
Did you buy the shoes?
I didn't. I was 17 years old, and there were these...
It's a little bit tough when you're 17.
Which I almost am grateful I didn't get them, because I think if they came to me that easily, I wouldn't have wanted them and searched for them and desired them.
Right.
So that they stuck with me.
But did you ever go back and buy them later in life?
I do have them.
I've done that all the time.
Yeah, what was the piece that sort of you searched for and that you couldn't get initially?
Oh God, I mean, for me there's many, and probably a Sex in the City piece in all fairness, because that's kind of what I specialize in, but there are many pieces that I just couldn't afford at the time, because my era for fashion was 1999, 2000, 2001. Those were my golden years of fashion, and of course I was thankfully too young then to be really affording to buy those pieces. But your Galliano at Dior, Tom Ford at Gucci, Stella McCartney, Chloe, those were the pieces. So there are many pieces that I've had to then try to find over the years now, and I'm still looking. But isn't it a good feeling? It's almost better than buying them at the original moment.
Absolutely, because it really shows that you love them, and it sort of
sticks in your head
rent
rent
for
free.
you.
Literally the definition of live, because you're there being a 17-year-old girl again, and then that day that it arrives in the mail, all them years, and you just you think, I can't believe I finally got that piece.
And I was like, I can't believe I'm at the stage where I can do something where my parents said that I couldn't do. Like, there's a sort of radical act, which I'm way past that age, which maybe that shouldn't be important to me, but still there is something.
But I think that's important to everybody, because it legitimizes it's you as an adult, as a fully fledged adult, that can go and buy this thing that was out of reach at some point, and now it's there and in your possession.
Yeah, and it just further fomented that sort of Marc and Marc's style has resonated with me for decades now.
Absolutely. So do you, early Marc, do you have a favorite collection?
Oh, gosh. I mean, his Pyes collection, the grunge collection, it was radical, and we're still now, I mean, now with the 90s revival, the fact that it's so relevant, I actually got to source pieces for a museum at FITM in LA.
Really?
They're doing an exhibit on 90s fashion, and they wanted pieces from Marc's grunge collection.
That's interesting, because I was about to ask you, how easy is it to come across those pieces?
Though the original grunge pieces are almost impossible to find. There's a story, it might be apocryphal, that Marc sent a lot of that collection to Courtney Love. And
I was about to say, surely she had to be the muse for that. I
And
mean,
apparently-
that was all her.
Apparently she burned it. She got rid of it at some point. So not that,
That
those
girl
were
is crazy.
Not that those are the only ones, but suffice to say, it's incredibly hard to find those original pieces.
Right.
But he did do a redo of that collection in
Okay.
2018. So there are pieces inspired
From that
by
that you can still get.
that you can still get. So that's incredible. His first collection at Vuitton, again, incredibly radical in a way. Vuitton, before Marc came, was leather goods and Malatier, a luggage shop. And
Absolutely. It wasn't. It was. We'll talk about Vuitton.
Yeah.
We'll do a whole segment on that. But let's go back just for a second
Yeah.
to the grunge collection. Why did Perry? Why was he fired? Now I know that it was because I know from what I heard that there was a lot of bad press, but still, it was a fantastic collection when you look back on it now. Why was he immediately fired?
We look back on it now and see it as
Iconic.
changing the course of fashion, but at the time it was very critically panned. Susie Menkes famously created these pins that said "grunge is ghastly" that she distributed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that she distributed to editors at Milan Fashion Week weeks later. So at the time it was.
What a bitch! Like, seriously, that's
she
a lot.
has a particular sensibility, and she's the editor, not me. But so that, I think the story is that Marc was fired because of that collection. He himself has said, actually, in the recent documentary, that wasn't quite the case, although he loves the lore of that. Perry Ellis was at the time winding down.
Right.
And so it just was the confluence of this collection that made waves and the fortunes of the company.
See, that makes more sense, because honestly, it just doesn't. They took him. So Marc, for those of you that don't know the history of Marc, started at Parsons and was creating quite a lot of waves when he was at Parsons. Goes to work for Perry Ellis in what year?
1988.
1988. So he was with them for
4 or 5 years. So not terribly
See, this
long.
is where information gets lost, because all you ever, if you were to type it in, I want to know about Marc Jacobs, it'll tell you that grunge was his first and last collection. That's what it's not true at all, which is what I think is important to correct. So he wasn't fired, which is what ChatGPT will tell you, or like any kind of bot online will tell you that was the first collection he did for them. Absolutely was not at all. It was just the one that, as you said, the brand was winding down. He'd had a successful career and a good run with them.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the grunge collection, he had Christy Turlington walking in that. He had Naomi Campbell. So he had very deep, he had very deep roots in the industry already. This wasn't some renegade designer. I mean, it was renegade, but he was established, and that was just what he did, and he had the following of many fashion people.
I mean, he was big on the New York scene in fashion. He was a person, I think, that came out of Parsons and just people gravitated towards him. He had gravitas. I think that's true of him now and always was.
Yeah, I think that's really what makes Marc is that people gravitate towards him, that he is a collaborative spirit, and that he is always one step ahead of the zeitgeist, whether it's grunge, whether it's Murakami, whether it's anything. And that's really what we see through a 40-plus year career.
And, for better or worse, the whole being fired from Perry Ellis actually went in his favor, because it really played into him.
For sure.
In terms of him being so prolific in the industry and him being this sort of this disruptor, this person who wasn't afraid to put different things out on the runway and to create that sort of, and his runway shows were so different and unexpected and always so unusual.
It absolutely gives him sort of this tinge of danger in a way.
Sort
of unpredictability, if you will.
He's not a bad boy, but he's a little bit of a bad boy.
No, so if I had to describe Marc Jacobs as like a student in high school, I don't know what the British equivalent is, my apologies. I would say that Marc, he's not the he's not the troublemaker. He's the really smart kid who maybe is daydreaming and sort of looking off into the window when the teacher is talking, but then says, Mark, what's the answer? He can come up with it right away.
Smart, very,
he's
very smart.
Very smart. He's a dreamer. I think he's playful. I think he's cheeky. I don't think he's intending to be subversive. He just sort of...
That's true. And that totally makes sense, because whenever I look at Marc collections, they're very distinctly different. There's not actually for me, and you probably might disagree, but there's not, you can't spot a piece and instantly know it's Marc Jacobs if it's not one of the most, like the iconic pieces that everybody knows, because he switched it up so often to me, like in every show there was just a different vibe. Girly florals, pretty tea dresses. The next season it was like grungy and punky, and so I love that about him. There wasn't it was never a...
He's a shapeshifter.
Yes.
And that's what I love about wearing Marc, is that when I get dressed, I want to get dressed so I have like a little inside joke with myself. If I'm going to a really professional environment, I need to look buttoned up, but it will have a little detail that's a little askance or different. And that is what Marc is he can be anything, and he has the references, he has the knowledge, and he can really build not just one world, but many worlds.
Yeah. And you're wearing Marc Jacobs today, of course. Tell me what you're wearing, and tell everybody what you're wearing.
Oh, well, I wanted to do, in honor of you, a little Carrie Bradshaw inspired outfit. So this is all vintage Vuitton, starting with spring 2005 jacket. The skirt is fall 2004. The shoes are fall 2010, and my bag is also spring 2005.
We brought these as a treat for you today.
Yes.
Lauren bought this bag, which I've actually never seen this bag before. This is rare, right?
Super rare. Yeah, this was also in the ad campaign with Uma Thurman, but this bag is close.
So it's the cherries, 2005.
Yep, it's the...
And what is the shape?
It's called the Sac for More, which I don't know French well.
No,
but
I think that's a pretty good stab at it.
It's sort of an elongated doctor's bag shape.
It is like a doctor's bag, yes. Oh, it's... As soon as you walked in with it, I thought it was stunning. The one I brought today is the Murakami Speedy, which is a lot more kind of everybody knows this bag. I feel like this one is rare. This one you can
Your
find
bag,
this
though,
one easily.
the multicolor Speedy. I mean, talk about icons. That is...
I remember when this collection, we'll talk about this in depth in a little bit. Let's finish up on early Marc, because obviously straight after the whole Perry Ellis thing, he went to Louis Vuitton.
Yeah, so he, at that time, Vuitton was just a luggage maker,
right,
and had suitcases, and Bernard Arnault, who owns LVMH, brought him on. Which, if you think, sort of, especially with the reputation that he garnered for that grunge collection, for this big French conglomerate to say, we want you to take
It is random. Right. That is a random choice for them to do.
So if I can tell, I love this story. So after that grunge collection and that dismissal, Marc's first collection for Vuitton featured one bag in the opening look that was just a white bag. No logo, no nothing.
Just one bag in the whole collection.
So you can imagine this company that's made its fortunes for over 100 years on handbags, and they bring on this new creative director, and he says, I'm going to give you one handbag. Lore is that Bernard Arnault was not very happy. And
I can imagine.
How risky of that, especially having that experience of being fired. Marc says, I'm still going to do something because this is sort of the vision I feel. And it was an all-white look, and it was like a refresh. It was like cleansing the palette for Vuitton, and what a rainbow he painted afterwards.
I mean, Louis Vuitton, so as Lauren said, there was no ready-to-wear. Up until this point, just luggage, just bags, just what your classic monogram canvas. All of a sudden, Marc Jacobs takes over, and we have ready-to-wear, which begins for Louis Vuitton. And what a journey.
Yeah.
What was the highlight collection? So what he did was a lot of designer collaborations. That was his big kind of strategy that really paid off unbelievably.
We take that for granted now.
Yes,
but he was the first in the modern era to to collaborate with artists. Of course, we had
Yeah.
Elsa Schiaparelli
Yeah.
in the 20s with Salvador Dali, but you have from the 1920s until the late 1990s.
Nobody was doing it.
No, and so the first one he did was with Steven Sprouse in spring 2001.
Oh my God.
The graffiti
I
print.
was obsessed with the graffiti
which
collection.
apparently Vuitton did not want Marc to do.
Of course not, because they're basically, he's graffitiing their canvas, which suggests a lack of respect for their monogram.
Absolutely.
I disagree. I mean, I think it changed their fortune. Like, I mean, that collection really did. I remember buying a fake black and white one from like China at the time because there was no way I could afford the real ones. And I remember it arrived and me just going, I can't use this because I know it's fake. You know, like when you get a fake bag and you're like, it's just
that famous "You Are Carrie Bradshaw,"
Yeah.
like with that scene in the
she's looking in the trunk and she's like, I'd always known my bag was fake. Yeah. And I remember but I wanted one so badly, one of the black and white graffiti or anything from that collection.
Well, that's what Marc does so well is he creates demand, whereas I think fashion today is just going at hype.
Right, and demand is so much better.
Yeah, it is just an organic love. Like people gravitated towards those when Murakami debuted in 2003. There wasn't social media. There weren't people saying, "Look at my multicolor bag."
There was just a big long waiting list.
It was just, what is this incredible new thing? I've never seen it. I need it. I want it.
I mean, Sprouse was good because one of the things I do own from Sprouse, I do own a few of the bags now, but from the beginning I had the pashminas, the leopard, which Kate Moss wore to death. Remember the waiting list at Louis Vuitton was insane. You just could not get one of those pashminas. Eventually got one. And then I got the roses, the red roses scarf with the Sprouse graffiti, and I still own them to this day, still wear them to this day, and I still, whenever I wear them, I'm reminded of being a youngish girl and thinking, I want that, I need that. And then, of course, Murakami comes out. And do you have a favorite piece from Murakami?
My favorite piece from Murakami is the ready to wear. So what Marc did with that collection is he sent out models in these neon, very brightly colored dresses that were actually inspired by the waitresses that American waitresses wore at diners in the 1950s.
Fabulous.
So the idea of taking this garment that was very blue collar and elevating it, making it in this satin silk, having it be for sort of the cosmopolitan elite. Again, it's just shows his imagination. So I love those dresses. I've had 3 of them.
I was going to say, do you own pieces from that collection?
I do, and so my goal is to have every single one of those dresses. So.
Yeah, I mean, though I was always into the bags, and I was actually a big fan of the cherry blossom. And I have like the papillon cherry blossom, which I've had forever. And I've had the cherry blossom papillon forever, and it's just.
Would you say that's your favorite Murakami motif?
It's probably but I always wanted a Speedy, and I had one for years that was really beat up, and then I got another one. I don't carry it very often. I think it's just to say that I now have that bag that I always wanted. I think the Speedy for me, the Speedy 30 was always the one that I really wanted. But the cherry blossom for me, still, I see those pieces and I'm just so drawn to Murakami cherry blossom.
It's so cute, that little Sakura face. It's adorable.
It's amazing. And then, of course, Richard Prince.
Yeah, Richard Prince.
Which actually I think is probably the least popular in terms of people knowing about it.
Yeah, so I think the Richard Prince collaboration or inspiration came about in spring 2008. And I think that was more of an inspiration rather than sort of a one-to-one collaboration. So that was based on Richard Prince's paintings, a series called The Nurses.
Yes.
And Marc sent out, again, a parade of models all in these sort of nurse get-ups with a silk satin dress, a white overcoat, a mask, a hat.
The mask. You have the masks, don't you? I saw a picture of you wearing the mask.
I do. That's probably one of my rarest pieces.
Is that really hard to find?
I haven't seen any others, and the white overcoat too is I've never seen really another one, and it's actually on display right now.
Do you own any of the bags?
I do. So I have the Aquarelle Papillon, which is incredible. It has python trim and it's all hand painted.
Wow.
So it's like this sunset color. I have a Murakami Fringe Speedy.
Oh, I saw that one.
That one.
That's rare as well.
Super rare. I've never seen, mine is pretty much in pristine condition.
Wow.
I've never seen.
Because actually people really beat them up. Like when you, these especially the white one, I've got to tell you, be careful when you're buying these. They get really beat up.
Color transfer is real.
The color always fades on them, and they're hard to keep. They're hard, and it cracks. They do crack quite a bit as well, which is always disappointing.
So I take the Murakami one out very, very rarely. And then let's see, do I have any? I'm actually not as much a handbag gal as I am.
Ready to wear. I'm actually the same as you.
Yeah.
I did make an exception for a Fendi baguette or a Dior saddle, but I'm a ready to wear girl as well.
What about ready to wear? Do you think love more than bags or shoes?
Yeah, no, I personally, if I would say I collect clothes. Way more than I collect shoes and bags. I just, from all designers, from all of my wish lists, which is huge, I've always gravitated towards clothes more than bags. I'm a girl who wears a recycling tote bag every day. And I don't want to walk around with I just love my bag so much that I
don't seem as precious for the most part, and
right.
sort of there's something nice about being able to you put your handbag down, you slip your shoes off, especially if they're uncomfortable, but your clothes, unless you're at a very particular type of community,
exactly, that's right,
stay on.
Exactly. And then there was Kusama. Now, Kusama was quite a popular collection. That's another one that retains its value.
Yeah, and again was reissued under the creative directorship of Nicolas Ghesquier, but
right.
Marc again sort of revered Yayoi Kusama, and you see a little bit of that actually in the 2007 documentary about Marc Jacobs by Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
So that one I don't have any of those pieces, but I love them. I mean,
they're not my favorite pieces. Yeah. I've never coveted one. I don't know why. They were not something that ever appealed to me. I can appreciate them. I know it was very popular. What about, this is a controversial one, Jeff Koons?
Yeah.
What did we feel about that? Because that's a funny one. A lot of people find that hard too.
Yeah, that was under Nicolas Ghesquier's creative directorship, and he's done incredible things at the house, but it's not my favorite. Again, I think...
Do you think Marc would have done that?
Do
you think he would have done Jeff Koons?
It feels, and this is no shade to anyone who has them, and they're beautiful. It feels a bit more obvious. I feel like the Murakami, the Sprouse, and even the Prince is a bit more organically integrated into the collection, where I felt like the Koons was a bit more obvious.
Yeah, the Koons is not, it's like the Supreme as well. This isn't Marc Jacobs, but it's, they're not, that I don't feel like these are just more unexpected. Murakami, when it came out, my God, I just remember everybody wanted to get their hands on it. Yeah. I think it's possibly, and I don't know the facts on this, but it was one of the most faked bags ever. The white and black Murakami multicolor.
Marc actually says that a big reason why the Sprouse bags were produced is because the company saw that fakes were being made before the actual bags were.
Wow.
So yeah, I of course don't have statistics on that, but I would, if I was a betting woman, I would say that the Murakami bags are the most.
I just remember seeing them, and the fakes were so awful. Because the thing is, what people don't realize about Vuitton bags in this era is the incredible craftsmanship that goes into them. They're not actually that easy to fake. There are many things that are very specific on a Murakami bag that the fakers, the counterfeiters, never get right.
No.
Never get right. Which is what, is so funny when you see the fakes, because you can spot them a mile off.
Yeah.
You can see them a mile off.
So Marc actually, because his work was so faked, he actually, in a cheeky way, responded in spring 2007 in Louis Vuitton. He created this, if you see in sort of Canal Street, the big laundry bags, it's sort of the plaid.
I remember this collection. Wow, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, so he actually made a luxury version of those Canal Street laundry bags.
And they were pretty pop. Do you own one of those?
I don't.
I feel like I want one now.
I know. I always am very close to pulling the trigger on those, and then just don't.
What do they go for? Just roughly, I'm just interested because I don't think I've ever seen one.
The market it sort of varies. I would say anywhere from 800 to maybe.
Oh, so you could, in theory, get one for
That's on the low end. I would say generally like $1,400-$1,500. They're made of woven lambskin.
So they're not actually made of laundry bag fabric.
No, and
they do look like it,
yeah,
though.
but that was sort of the humorous bit. Is he said, okay, you're gonna fake me, well, I'm gonna fake you, but instead of you doing it out of sort of cheap materials, I'm gonna do it in this luxury way.
That's so smart.
Isn't
and
that
does kind
genius?
of make me want to buy one
Yeah.
now. I like to have a piece of Marc's, all of the bags, at least one of something for the most part, and then I try to get a piece from every collection from ready to wear as well. But we were talking about this before we came on live. It's really hard now to get, because of this TikTok boom that happened where everybody starts talking about Marc Jacobs again and a new generation. It's really hard now to find pieces from the older collections, even Marc by Marc.
Yeah, no, and part of me is so glad that he's getting more of the recognition.
Me too, but I'm also like,
I know.
I really like being able to pick this stuff up.
I know, right? It's very nice to be sort of the first. But yeah, I think also Marc's own collection is harder to find than Vuitton.
I agree with that too, and I definitely, as someone who's a collector and an archivist, I definitely find it harder to find Marc's mainline pieces from the runway versus what I can find from Vuitton. Mm-hmm. I've got so many questions to ask you about later on. Remind me, I want to ask you about a few pieces that from his main collections that I want to know if they exist. So we'll talk about that in a little while. Let's talk about collections from Marc's. Or should we talk about Marc by Marc? Let's talk about Marc by Marc, because that's where your entry was. Yeah. So Marc, he's already successful. He's growing his brand. He creates, was it 2003? Oh, sorry. 2001, he launches Marc by Marc, and it runs till 2015.
Yeah.
And Marc by Marc is widely considered to be the most successful designer diffusion line pretty much in history.
Absolutely. Yeah, it really did bring in, if I talk to anyone who loves Marc, inevitably they'll say my first piece was Marc by Marc. And that fashion was really, truly iconic. You had Audrey Long on the podcast a couple weeks ago, and she's the Gossip Girl. She is an incredible historian of Gossip Girl. And the dresses she was talking about that the market has just exploded on in terms of desirability are Marc by Marc Jacobs.
Yeah, they're not mainline.
No, the white scallop dress from the first episode of the second season, Blair's Thanksgiving outfit from the Thanksgiving episode.
Was that the gold one with the cape?
Yes, it was. Yeah, so Marc is always in pop culture. Even this isn't Marc by Marc Jacobs, but just to talk about pop culture is the opening credits of Sex and the City almost had a Marc Jacobs dress.
Yeah, I don't own it actually, and it's another one that I wish that I bought when I could, because no one really knew. Before people started looking into Sex and the City in depth on social media, no one really knew about the fact that Pat picked a blue sheath dress from Marc Jacobs, and then at the last minute switched it for the $5 tutu.
Yeah.
But I've seen pictures of the blue, and it's beautiful.
It's gorgeous. And look, I love Marc. But the tutu was just so perfect.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I think Pat made the right choice when she pulled it at the last minute. I think she probably looked at that sequence and went, it's not quite what we want. However, the dress itself is just beautiful, and I do need to get one. I actually own an early Marc Jacobs that's very similar. So Carrie in season 1, you've watched Sex and the City, you're a fan.
Yes.
Do you remember when she sleeps with the architect, the French architect, and he thinks she's like a lady of the night and leaves money on the side table? She wears a grey silk Marc Jacobs sheath dress with a duster jacket to go on the date with him. And people had asked me, where's it from? And I said, I don't know. And I was scrolling through one of the resale sites one day, and I just I was actually going through Marc Jacobs listings looking for my normal stuff. And I saw that dress and I was like, that's really familiar, and it was ringing the bells. I looked back through, same dress. It was the one Carrie wore in Sex and the City. So I do own something very similar to that blue. And it's like wearing air.
It is.
They're just silk, and they feel like they weigh nothing, and they move beautifully. Yeah. So I can see why Pat selected several pieces. In fact, I'm just going to ask you the question I have to ask you while we're on this subject. Season 6 of Sex and the City.
Yes.
Episode's called Splat. Carrie is wearing, which is in my top 5 outfits of all time, which is really saying something for me.
Yeah.
She's wearing a Marc Jacobs ice blue flapper dress in velvet.
Yes.
Okay. Now I have to ask you, because this is in my, so I have 5 pieces from Sex and the City, and you know I have all the original pieces.
Yep.
5 pieces that I haven't been able to find. I found one on my top 5. That is on my list. And I need to know, I know that it exists in gold because Miss Barton wore it. It was on the runway. Where did tell me about the blue one. I need to know, because I've been trying forever.
I have been combing through every end of earth, I have been turning over every rock.
It doesn't exist, does it?
I can't, maybe only a Marc Jacobs archive. But that
Do you think he made it just for the show in that different colorway?
Oh, gosh, maybe?
Because I know, I've never actually found it for sale in the gold either. So they must be extremely hard to find.
Pieces from that era are so hard, especially the dresses.
But we know it exists in gold because we've seen it on the runway. And when it's on the runway, it doesn't mean that it was produced, but it means there's a higher chance that it was produced even in a small quantity. But the blue one?
Oh, there's something about the contrast of the blue with the gold, that flapper shape, the whole...
It's to die for. And it's literally my...
perfect for the drama of the moment. And
so many people ask for that dress.
It really, to me, signifies sort of when Carrie is at that liminal point of sort of she's her old life and sort of her potentially more sort of sophisticated life.
That's exactly right, because it's very sexy. It's kind of like what I'm wearing today, slashed down the sides. But it's also demure as well. So there's like that real contrast between old Carrie sexy and this new, like, I'm going to Paris.
Yeah,
and,
that's what Marc does so well. Like that refinement is
I need to find that dress.
Oh, if you tell me, I mean, I want to find that dress.
Right.
But I will absolutely, like, virtually and in person high five you, because I will be so glad that someone found it. I just don't know where.
There's some pieces that I'm sure just didn't ever get produced and were made for the show. And, so either it's in an archive, which is totally possible. I definitely have sold some of my collection to, like, the Chloe archive, for example, because I collect Stella McCartney for Chloe. That's my, like, holy grail collection, the early collections there, and Chloe bought some back from me, which I really wish I didn't do, but I feel better that they're actually in their archive.
Feather in your cap as a collector. I mean, I hope you can appreciate what
I do, even when I cry that I sold it. It's one of the, you remember the Diamante collection where there was all the, I had the dress from the runway. Now what's interesting is I had the actual runway dress and they bought it back from me, which shows you that it wasn't produced. So they produced the top, they produced the trousers, which I do own the trousers. I own quite a lot of pieces from that collection, but I cry every time I think of the fact that I own that dress. But I also feel glad that it's in the archives in Paris. I shipped it to Paris to their archives.
I wish that they had given you visitation rights, but...
Me too. I've just got one awful picture of me wearing it. Like, I don't even know. Because back then I wasn't really doing social media and stuff. So there was no reason. Now I'd be strutting all over New York in it before I sent it to Chloe.
Absolutely.
Now I've got one rubbish picture in my living room being like... I did the same with the Chloe horse dress, though. Don't even start me on the horse dress. I didn't sell it to Chloe. I sold it to a collector, and I've been trying forever to get it back. Gosh. Anyway, we're off the topic. So yes, we don't know then about the flapper dress.
We don't know. Unconfirmed.
Gosh. Can you recall any other major Marc Jacobs highlights in Sex and the City? She wore a lot. Like there was the denim jacket, and there was a lot of very sort of simple pieces.
Charlotte wore an outfit from the 2003 Murakami collection.
She did?
When she was at the Jewish mixer, where she fell back in love with Harry. It's sort of suiting.
Yes.
That is a Murakami outfit, which I've seen that once or twice.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that's the quiet.
I think I've seen that come up for sale as well and not realised what it was.
Yeah.
And obviously they didn't either. They've obviously put Marc Jacobs, but...
I actually think I might know where one is. I can send it to you. I'll take a look.
Wow.
But yeah, so that's another Louis Vuitton moment.
So there was quite a lot of Marc Jacobs worn, but I do think most people would say the flapper dress in Sex and the City was the piece that was just... Wow.
Major.
And I don't think they wore any by Marc Jacobs because it was too the show was kind of winding down at that point, but certainly there was
I don't think really fit their aesthetic. I think of all 4 of the women and I really can't
it was aimed at a younger audience, a contemporary audience.
And it was effective. I will say I'm so sad. There's so many of us that are really sad that Marc isn't available, but it ushered in a whole new generation.
So they closed it in 2015, which is interesting. I guess we should talk about this now because what happened? Because Sir Marc Jacobs, huge. There's no way around this. One of the most talked about, famous designers in the whole world, fated, Louis Vuitton. And then for no reason at all, everything just goes really quiet. And Mark by Mark closes down without any real explanation. And he just sort of fades away to some degree comparative to before. What happened?
I don't know. And the company has definitely gone through different iterations. So right after they closed down Marc by Marc, they tried this new thing where the runways incorporated both the really high-priced, expensive items and lower-priced items.
Right.
That didn't work as well. And so you see now sort of with the company, so the runway ready-to-wear, is only available at Bergdorf Goodman. You can go to a...
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you go to a Marc Jacobs boutique, they have ready to wear. It's inspired by the runway, but it's much more wearable.
So you can only get the actual runway collection at Bergdorf.
Yes.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the collection that was just shown, I hope that it's more available. I'm in love with it and want to wear everything. But because there was a time where Marc Jacobs, his storefronts took up an entire block in Bleecker Street, and it was close to Magnolia Bakery.
Oh yes.
And so it's harder to find and produced in much smaller quantities, and so that's just sort of the direction that the company has been in.
Because I saw the 2025 runway show, which was at the New York Public Library, and it only lasted for 5 minutes, and there was a lot of like, what's happening, and it was kind of a very interesting collection. Although those boots, how would you? The models are like, you're trudging along.
It's those runway shows where we're just like, please don't fall, please don't fall. Like, it's almost like a little uncomfortable because I'm like worried that someone's gonna.
But the clothes, I would, as a stylist, I was like, you know what? The clothes are so beautiful. Those boots have distracted me away from the cut and the beauty of the clothes. But I understand that, as well as a stylist, the need to make a statement and have something a little bit different.
Yeah, and Marc, I think in the mid 20-teens, came out with the Kiki boot. And so he sort of has been known for these outrageous footwear since then. And I think that was a different iteration. But yeah, the collections, the really architectural oversized.
Oh, I loved.
I actually have a sweater. It's this unbelievably constructed sweater. It probably adds like 10 inches.
You're only tiny, so you can totally do that.
It is. I had to, honestly, I mean, it's constructed. It has almost padding, like almost panniers. I had to see whether I could put it on and take it off myself because it's so big.
Wow.
I wore it through airport security ones. Which
they thought you were trying to smuggle something.
I will say I've gotten 3 full body pat downs at TSA this year, and each time I've gotten a compliment from the TSA agent doing the outfit. So if that's why airport security is taking longer, I'm sorry, it's me.
It's you with your oversized Marc Jacobs.
Yeah, but it's incredible. It's an incredible piece, and just the architecture of it just speaks to the workmanship.
Yeah, and the thing is, he is also a master tailor, and people all the time we have these kind of controversies about people's personal lives and stuff, and it takes away from the actual fact that he's a phenomenally talented designer.
He is.
And has had such a long career and created so many insanely iconic pieces because of his talent and the fact that he's been able to continually shock and excite and change it up every season. I think that's why people are so confused when it just went. Yeah,
it was I think a quiet time for the brand.
Yeah.
But it feels like there's a whole new energy behind it. I think the last couple of collections were incredible. The documentary that just came out by Sofia Coppola, his longtime friend and muse in many ways. Rumors are that the beauty line is coming back.
Yeah, because the beauty line was phenomenally successful, and it was sold to Estee Lauder, and then Coty is the perfumes, I think. But they're hugely successful, and his beauty line, people, I googled it just out of interest, and so many people are like, when is it going to come back?
Yeah.
When is it coming back?
I've gotten so many messages from people who are saying, those eyeshadow palettes were my favorite.
And the nail polishes.
The nail
so
polishes.
good.
And so it seems like, so there was this past fall, it seemed like LVMH was going to sell Marc Jacobs.
Right.
Which I was outraged by.
Yeah.
It just felt wrong. And it looks like they've reinvested in the company.
Oh, fantastic.
And I think that they see the momentum, and I think that a lot of it is because they see the love for Marc and the attachment that people have to...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, the beauty side of things, it's a huge industry.
Yeah.
The beauty industry now has, I think, overtaken the fashion industry in terms of like revenue, and because it's so much easier for someone to buy a lipstick than it is to buy a $2,000 bag.
Oh, completely. Beauty and fragrance subsidizes, in many cases, the other operations of a fashion brand.
And, Daisy is still
huge.
One of the biggest selling fragrances in the world.
Yeah, and I remember when that fragrance came out, and it just speaks to Marc's imagination, because I remember him saying in an interview that daisies actually don't have a fragrance.
No, they don't. They don't. That's so true.
So he had to sort of think of what is the essence of a daisy. And honestly,
how would that smell?
I think he captured it.
I do too. I must admit, the adverts drive me crazy where they go daisy, 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 and I'm like, shut up. Like the adverts.
That's not my favorite.
But I love the packaging.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so. I remember I worked in luxury fashion back then when it was launched, and the lid with the daisies on it, and it's so sculptural and so interesting.
Very tactile.
And I think, again, it's very him, So I think there's such a big market for him to come back. Beauty, for sure. Fragrance is already there. But I just want old runway Marc Jacobs back, honestly. And so let's talk about some of the best collections, because I'm wearing my favorite collection.
That spring 2008 collection was incredible. It was Marc. It unfortunately happened. There was a 2-hour delay.
Yeah, so the collection's called now the Great Delay Collection. It's spring 2008. My personal favorite of all time. It's actually one of my favorite runway shows of any designer, not just Marc Jacobs. But it had a 2-hour intentional.
It was not intentional. So they were trying to work and finagle the video component.
Oh, because I thought, given that the whole show's theme was back to front, that he deliberately made people wait.
No, it just was sort of, wouldn't have been fun if you were an attendee, but it just sort of hit with the wackiness of it.
Yeah, because it now plays into the fact that the show is back to front.
Yeah,
Marc takes his bow at the start, and then everything's backwards.
And so everyone was really off kilter because it was so late, and then the designer comes
I always
clothes.
just thought that was intentional because of the back, that was, because so apparently Susie Menks was his old friend was going absolutely crazy. Didn't she make a statement or something?
She said, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm using the correct words here. In her review, she said she wanted to murder Marc Jacobs, which I understand that being late is not,
She's obviously never been to a Madonna show.
Yeah, that's a little extreme, and that she would never go to a Marc Jacobs show again. But Marc sort of got the last laugh, as he often does. So Karl Lagerfeld did a sketch of the backwards heels, the iconic backwards heels that we remember from Victoria Beckham's ad campaign, hanging out of the bag.
Yeah.
It was a backwards heel kicking Susie Menkes. He did an illustration of that.
Because Karl Lagerfeld was like, whatever, Susie Menkes. Because that's the thing with a great designer like Marc at the height of his career, because 2008 he was still very much up there. You can do whatever you want, really. Honestly, you are going to wait for it to start. You're not going to get up and leave. And what a collection! That
was the last show. Marc used to be the last show of New York Fashion Week, and it was where all the stars came.
Yeah, and so can you just imagine the kind of people that were sitting on that front row for 2 hours waiting for it to start, and then it starts, and he comes out and waves at everybody. Everyone must have just sat there and been like, "What the f is happening now?"
So that's a favorite.
Oh, just the whole collection. I mean, so if you've never seen the backwards heels, the heel is in the center of the foot and the back is open. And I think that, yes, Victoria Beckham at that moment was heavily sort of, she wasn't a muse, but I think she was going into her fashion era. And so she got really in with Marc Jacobs and was in his ad campaign. And then she wore one of my favorite dresses from that runway show, the pink cowl neck with the slash sides with the little shorts underneath it. She was seen wearing the pink one, which was on the runway, which I still don't own the pink one, which really annoys me. I have two other colours in it.
We've got to get you that, and
I have to. And you know, the last time I bought one of those, I bought it for less than $100.
Yeah, no, I've gotten a couple of dresses from that collection for way less than they should, and it's just an incredible collection.
This is so rare. What I'm wearing, this one,
I've never seen it.
Incredibly hard. So one of the things that was in the collection, which is funny because it featured 18th century Victorian hats, you know, like Edwardian Victorian, so very, very old fashioned hats, but then these insanely modern deconstructed dresses like this. This is like a football jersey, which has a total open side with a cape, and there was a lot of pieces that were sort of along those lines, which is so unexpected. And then there were these fabulous dresses that were just all, again, deconstructed in these lovely pastely purples and pinks.
And some of them have really wacky prints. I have one that has, on the top, it has Technicolor swans, and on the bottom, Technicolor mice. Because, you know,
why not?
The two of them go together so
perfectly,
so naturally, like spaghetti and tomato sauce.
Yeah, that's my Marc collection. What about? I know you know this one, the Louis Vuitton 2013 escalators, damier.
Yeah, that is, I would say, I have such an affinity for that because
your suit is incredible.
That's my lucky suit. So that yellow, I mean, so this was one of the most expensive fashion shows ever in history.
So was this in New York?
It was in Paris.
I was going to say it was in Paris, right? Because it was Vuitton. It wasn't Marc Jacobs, right? And it was just, so if you don't know, it was just 4 or 5 escalators in a row, and the models were coming
down in pairs.
Apparently
that one was more expensive to stage than when Marc had a full-on train steam through.
Oh God, we're going to talk about the train as well.
That one.
Yeah, the escalators, but the collection. So if you're a Vuitton fan and you're a fan of the bags, damier is the checks.
Yes.
Okay, so damier is the checks, which he translated into big damier checks on suiting in 1960s.
60s mod, and so that suit is my lucky suit.
Lauren has a yellow one. I'll put a picture in this video for you.
So I now have a second one. I have a black, but the yellow one was my luckiest find. I sourced 4 of the 5 pieces in one day. It was the suit that I wore on my first ever post on Instagram, and actually a year to the day of me posting that on Instagram, my first ever, I met Marc Jacobs wearing it.
Oh,
and it was my birthday, no less.
Amazing.
It's like faded.
And so I'm guessing he recognized it.
We didn't talk about it. I was also just at a loss for words.
I bet. How did you meet him?
So I went to a screening of Marc by Sophia at the Angelica, and I'm an early to bed gal, and I was like, they'd done the Q&A, so I came to New York because I live in Boston, as you mentioned, because in my Delulu brain, I saw Q&A, and I thought, audience Q&A. Turned out it was with a journalist, but
I wish it was a bloody audience, because those journalists are always really boring. They don't ask the good questions.
I will neither confirm nor deny that was the case.
Oh, I go to a lot of Q&As, trust me.
But as my friend and I were walking out, she saw a sedan and she said, we should wait, it might be Sophia. And lo and behold, Marc just very unassumingly comes out, and I got to talk to him. He was so kind to stop for a picture. I got to give him a magazine that I was featured in, and it's a tribute to him. And he very graciously took it.
That is so amazing.
So it was incredible. And I actually now have an illustration of that moment done by Will Broom,
I saw this on your Instagram.
Yeah, who's the illustrator who did Miss Marc. So
wow.
Yeah, that collection for me will always just be so special.
Of all the things I've seen that you wear, that's the one that if I would go, yes, I'd have that in a second. Like that's the one. It's just so 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie O would have worn that suit.
Totally.
You know what I mean? It's just...
I wore 3/4 of it to work, so I work in a very different field than fashion.
Right, because you work at the most famous university in the world, I would say, for most people.
Yeah, I would say it's pretty well known. And so, but even in just not the full outfit, but people were sort of oohing and ahhing over it. And I don't dress when I go to work to be seen.
Right. Different
I
vibe.
really have to sort of fade into the background, and I love that. And that's sort of where my internet nom de plume came from. But it really just, it brings joy to everyone who sees it, and it's fun to wear.
It's the color as well, that gorgeous limey yellowy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's just that's the thing about clothes, those pieces that just make people say, oh, I love that. Just certain colors and certain textures, and I love that one. What about the SS15 Beats by Dre bubblegum?
I don't know.
No, it popped up when I was searching for like really famous collections. The models had headphones on.
So Marc left in his last collection was spring 2014. So anything after.
So then this was Vuitton.
Yeah, so it would have been.
This wouldn't have been his own.
No, but if I can actually, he didn't do those, but he has a very close relationship to hip hop. So Marc actually, so Pharrell right now is the men's creative director of Vuitton.
Of course, yeah, which is
But
kind of strange, but
it
also
was
makes
Marc
sense.
who brought Pharrell into the Vuitton orbit.
Because of the streetwear hip hop.
Well, actually, in 2004, Vuitton came out with its first ever pair of sunglasses, the Millionaire sunglasses. And Marc tapped a very famous hip-hop artist, Pharrell Williams, to collaborate.
And that's how this all came about.
And that was, Pharrell he said in an interview, he said, "You are the one that brought me into high fashion. Like, I loved it, but people wouldn't let me in the door."
He was his gateway. He legitimized.
And so he had that Pharrell worked with Vuitton. Marc was very close with Lil' Kim. He actually, the Met Gala is coming up on Monday.
Right.
Lil' Kim went to the Met Gala with Marc in 2005 wearing a rosette dress, which actually I have coming in. So he has been in sort of every realm of pop culture, including hip hop.
Yeah, he's a great networker.
He
and I
really
think
is.
people gravitate towards him. What about 2006, the marching band?
Love that with Nirvana's
Smells Like Teen
Teen
Spirit.
Spirit, yeah.
And it was the Penn State Blue band.
Yeah,
Doesn't
the
mean anything to
Nittany
me. We don't
Lions.
really have bands in England. It's not really, well, we do, but not those kind of bands. We have like rock bands.
That-
Here it's marching bands.
That was an incredible collection. My other dress that's coming in, I got it from Gwyneth Paltrow's auction. So I got the rosette dress.
Oh, wow.
And it's a blue dress from that collection. It's this navy slip dress with sequins. So I'm very grateful that Apple Martin didn't want them, because
So
now
wait,
they're mine.
the Gwyneth Paltrow auction was stuff that she was going to pass down to her daughter and she didn't want it?
I guess so. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
because if that was me, I'd be like, no, I'll have it all. Thank you very much.
I know. And there was a Richard Prince bag. There was a Follow 4 for Stoll. So suffice to say. But yeah, that collection, again, it was another version of sort of grunge in a way, but sort of 90s. But yeah, I mean, who put a marching band on your... Marc Jacobs would.
What about the train?
The train, okay, that was incredible. So for fall 2012, he staged a full-on moving...
Marc or Vuitton?
Marc at Vuitton.
Okay, got it.
Locomotive train that went through the venue, and it was all about sort of old world style. And so you had these models in these incredible exaggerated outfits, hats by Stephen Jones. But what was so chic about it is that they had porters carrying the bags behind the models.
Oh.
So it was so chic.
I mean, I think Paris is so special to hold, and I love that. Obviously, all of the Louis Vuitton was always held in Paris. I think it just lends. Look at Karl Lagerfeld for Chanel. I mean, look at some of what he did at the Grand Palais. You know, like it was always this drama that I just don't think you ever see in New York.
No,
it's just not that same vibe at all.
No, I don't think there's any fashion company as big. But it just sort of goes to, as well as sort of, we were talking about sort of, was it Marc or Vuitton, and sort of the incredible thing when Marc was designing at Vuitton and doing both collections is both collections. So spring 2008, you know, that collection, the collections were always similar. There was a thread.
A thread.
There was a
I
common
think they'd have to be, right? How
Right.
difficult would it be to be doing two collections
If you're the-
simultaneously?
Completely, if you're the same person, but they were always done differently.
Yeah.
And he says, again, in the Sofia Coppola documentary, that he knew that when he landed in Paris, that like a black t-shirt done for Marc Jacobs in New York was different if he was in Paris. But
Very different.
just the ability to do that is, I mean, I can't imagine the sheer amount of work, but he really did something incredible. So that collection was incredible. Do you have a favorite sort of staging or show that he did, irrespective of the clothes?
No, I mean, the one that we talked about, The Great Delay, was always my favorite, just for so many different reasons. I am someone, I love the drama of them, but it's the pieces, if I want to buy the pieces from the collection, you know, like if I'm watching it going, yes, that one, that's kind of what links me to remember them more so, you know, like for some reason this collection just spoke to me and I just wanted everything that was on the runway that year. Even, you know, in the 2008 collection, there's like a cashmere cropped grey, little sweater, and it has a midi skirt that goes with it, and it's kind of sheer at the back. And I was actually on eBay a few years ago for like nothing, and I didn't buy it. And I'm like, now it was in my watch list, and I'm like, why did you do that? But you know, at the time, I don't
Would
know.
you say that's the Marc piece that got away, or is there
No,
another
the Marc piece is the purple version of this dress.
Yeah.
The purple one is the one that is just forever I've been trying to find, and the pink Victoria Beckham cowl neck. But because I don't mind too much. I own a version of both of them, so it's fine.
I mean, but that's not to say it's not fun to have the full runway show.
Oh no, I want the full. I'm a person who is so obsessive that I want the full collection. It's like Stella McCartney at Chloe 2000, SS 2000. I want every single piece, and that's.
If I may
I
ask,
own quite a lot of them, so.
if I may ask, because you're such a prolific collector of a number, you know, I tend to specialize.
Yes.
I do specialize in Marc. I certainly.
Which it makes it easier, I feel.
Yeah, it does. I certainly wear other designers, but Marc, I feel, is sort of who reflects me and sort of who I want to be in the world. But you have such an incredible collection across
Bounces
several.
around.
Yeah. How would you say that sort of? Who are you when you're looking for Marc, or sort of what's the mood that sort of makes you feel Marc Jacobs versus like Vivienne or Chloe?
Well, that's really interesting. That'll bring me on to a question for you at the same time, because I'm very pop culture led. So, with the exception of the 2008 collection, which I don't think was used in any major, you know, TV shows at the time. So it usually is things that were worn in one of my favorite shows. So great case in point, Mishka Barton in the OC wears a very. This is where I struggle sometimes with identifying Marc, because it's so different from what you're wearing now, from what I'm wearing now. She's wearing a Dobby, what we call in England a Dobby, polka dot, baby blue, halter neck, sundress. And it was Marc Jacobs, and everybody wants that dress now. It's so covetable, and it's such a simple dress, but it was so iconic because she wore it in the OC, and the OC was a massive cultural phenomenon at the time. And so, you know, I wanted that, found that. You know, and Carrie, I want the flapper dress. You know, it's so a lot of my Marc Jacobs pieces were tied to seeing them in a TV show. Monica in Friends wears quite a bit of Marc Jacobs.
That fits.
And I still pick those up really cheap, because people don't really tend to go crazy for that stuff as much on Friends. It just doesn't have the same thing as Sex in the City, for example, where it's so fashion driven. So yeah, I think that's where my Marc Jacobs, I love his designs, and I would wear them all, mainline Marc and Louis Vuitton. I would wear them all day long, but the pieces that I really covet are the ones that I saw somebody else wearing.
That's incredible, though, that even given that you gravitate so strongly towards a collection that hasn't been memorialized in pop culture.
It's so strange, isn't it? And I adore that collection.
Yeah, I mean, but it must say something about sort of just how the spirit
And I think it possibly is, and we talked about this, about when did you get into it, Marc Jacobs, and fashion in general. 2008, I think, was the year where I really started to get into high fashion.
Same.
Now, I obviously was obsessed with the 2000 runways, those 2000, 2001, 1999, but I wasn't in a position to be buying stuff at that point.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably 2008 is more where I was working and I could afford potentially to buy pieces. And so, you know, it was more relatable in that period for me to be able to say, well, actually, I could buy that. And I was telling you, this collection was on the outnet. They did this crazy sale, guys. And it must have been what? So it would have been 2009, 2010 even, because it certainly wouldn't have been when the collection was full price. This collection and a load of other pieces was on the outnet, and they did this £1 sale in the UK.
$2 here in the US.
And it was it dropped, and I'm such a crazy person now that I would have found a way to get everything. But back then I couldn't get on, and it was the website kept crashing, and all of these pieces were in that outnet sale, the 2008 collection across the board. And so the fact that I could have bought these pieces and didn't, it's just for £1, for £1. So that's why you're very similar to me in the sense that we are very much sort of we remember something that we love that we couldn't have access to, and now we have to find it. Now am I right in thinking, or am I wrong, that Anne Hathaway wears the piece in Devil Wears Prada that's from the same collection as this?
Yes, so actually this is my pride and joy. I have the garment.
So in the finale of Devil Wears Prada, the first movie, just in case and I'll put a picture up, Anne Hathaway in the car with Meryl Streep.
That climactic scene.
Yeah.
You're just like me. And Anne says no, and she is wearing a fall 2004 Louis Vuitton dress. And I am so lucky to have the exact garment.
Wow.
Which, as the Devil Wears Prada sequel rollout has been happening, we've seen some of those archival pieces from the movie. You haven't seen that dress because it's in my closet.
Wow. Do you have the original piece?
I have the original piece that Anne Hathaway wore.
How did you find it?
I found it from someone who was in the movie business, and she had the sample. And so
was there only one made, or was it produced?
I'm not sure if the dress was produced for retail, but this is a sample, and it has the sample tag.
So you have the actual one. You could have parlayed that into something for this new launch,
So I'm going to an event tomorrow, and I'm going to wear that actually with the same style of bag that Andy gives her very ungrateful friend.
Oh my God, absolutely. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago in the podcast about Devil Wears Prada, and I talked about she gives her that bag.
I know. If your friend
is it a Marc by Marc bag?
No, it's a regular mainline Marc. Yeah, so I have those two really special Devil Wears Prada pieces that, again, Marc,
please send me a picture.
Marc has his imprint on pop culture very, very strongly.
Oh, absolutely. And then actually that reminds me, the Stam bag. Oh my goodness.
We're stans for Stam.
Oh, absolutely. The petrol blue.
Oh, and
mine's still somewhere, and it's kind of battered to pieces, and I think parts of it has fallen off.
Those bags you couldn't beg, borrow, or steal for. You really, like, when they were
so Marc Jacobs releases a collection of bags called the Stam after Jessica Sam, who is a very famous model, but especially at that time she was huge. She was everywhere. And so he names it the Stam bag. It comes in black, it comes in petrol blue, white, I think. It comes in a few colours. It was the bag. It wasn't that the first It bag?
It really was. I think the Luella Bartley Giselle.
Oh, I have a collection of those.
And actually, Luella has a Marc connection. She and Katie Hillier, her partner, designed Marc by Marc Jacobs for the last few years of it.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
I knew they were design partners. I would
say that the Giselle bag was sort of the first It bag.
Was that big here? Because I felt like in England it was huge.
It was maybe not as big in the UK, but it was definitely a thing.
It was a thing. Mm-hmm. So then Marc Jacobs, the Stam bag, I think globally is known as the first, because what year was that? Do you remember? 2006?
2000.
Yes,
yeah,
2006. That was the start of what became the It bag phenomenon. Oh my goodness, that was insane. I couldn't reel them off because I wanted all of them. The Stam bag was what started it off. That was the one that everybody got to get my hands on that bag. Mm-hmm. Weighed an absolute ton, I might add, when it was on the crook of your arm. It had a huge gold chain on it.
Yeah, I mean, those It bags, they were a commitment. You think of the Chloe Paddington.
The Alexander Wang Coco Duffel.
Yeah, I mean...
Weapons. Absolute
truly.
weapons.
I mean, at least you're getting bang for your buck.
You really were, but they were no joke. They went... Even the Celine... later on, the big Celine, oh my God, the trapeze, it's like trying to carry a bowling ball around with you.
It speaks to the craftsmanship, though. I mean,
It does.
Anything that is that hefty is substantial and is made from quality material.
But Marc was always about the it bag. It's just that when these came out, these were must-haves in a different way. The it bag was a slightly different era. It was this very celebrity-driven,
it was
over mass, not mass-produced, but mass consumption.
It was so strange that his bags didn't really have a logo, whereas at Vuitton, the logo was everything, and so he had a little bit of the best.
His was so distinctive, though.
Yeah, it was distinctive but still discreet, whereas Vuitton just it announces itself immediately.
So to kind of like wrap up slightly, what's happened now? Because what's happened to me is if I go into like, you know, Century 21 or, you know, those kind of places, you've got a lot of the tote bag, you know, this kind of Marc Jacobs, it's sort of now classed as a contemporary brand rather than a luxury brand. And I'm sure it's bringing in a lot of money, I'm guessing, because they still sell extremely well. And the new logo, you know, the new logo and the camera bags. That's really the bread and butter and has been for quite some time, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that, if I could put something out into the universe, if I could ask Marc Jacobs a few questions, one would be is how he thinks of the different aspects of his company, sort of the really high level clothes making and sort of the art, and then also sort of in tandem that commercialized arm, because one, you need the high fashion to give the commercialized products that sort of standing. Yeah. But at the same time, you need the revenue from those commercialized products, the ones that are more widely available to support the
Of course
art.
you do. I mean, see, this is the danger. Like, let's take Michael Kors for a great example. Yeah. Michael Kors, very, very, very talented designer, amazing at Celine back in the day. Now is known for creating very low end entry point designer bags, and that's no shade to people that buy them and think they're amazing, but it is not luxury, and it's looked down upon from fashion people, and no one remembers that he was this amazing designer. And if you look at some of the pieces that he designed for Anne Hathaway and Devil Wears Prada, incredible. Like he's in the montage, some of his pieces are in the montage, and you know, his stuff at Celine is, a lot of it was worn in Sex and the City. I own many pieces from it. You know, really amazing. And I feel with Marc, that hasn't really happened, but it could happen. I think we could go down that path.
I'm so glad you said that, because I've felt this. There's that danger. It sort of teeters on an edge.
Yes.
But there is something, I think Marc is a stronger personality.
I think so too.
And
he is the brand.
He really is. And I think he's still allowed the sort of the artistic, sort of the more high fashion aspect to exist, you know, with things like the kikis, with things like those boots that you were saying.
Right. He's still there. He's still there.
He can still really show what he does. And so it's a dance and it's a balance, but I think I'm grateful that it sort of allows the company to do what it does.
I just hate now, because for me, Marc Jacobs in my brain, to me, is always high fashion.
Same.
It's luxury and it's high fashion, and it always will be. But I just think now I talk to a lot of people and they just don't know that. Like, that's why I wanted to do this podcast today with you, because this whole podcast idea is icons, and it's really to remind people and to educate people about these very important moments in fashion that have shaped where we are now. And I don't want people that are younger to think that Marc Jacobs is those camera bags and you know, this kind of tote bag, which is great and is a great gimmick, but it does not define who he is and was as a designer. So I'm still really hopeful that we're going back to a place where we might start seeing those incredible runway shows again.
Yeah, me as well. And I'm so grateful for what you do to sort of to bring people sort of, I think there have been waves of sort of a renaissance for all of these shows that you talk about, Sex and the City, Gossip Girl, the OC, and that you sort of show sort of the intricacies that we might have missed as initial viewers.
Absolutely.
It brings it it brings us back to why we love those shows, and really highlights why these designers and people like Marc are so consequential for fashion.
Absolutely. I love that summary. I love that. Thank
Oh.
you. So, all right, to finish, tell me I think you've probably already answered it, but what's your favorite ever piece? I want to know the one that you own and the one that you want to own.
Oh gosh.
It's like choosing your favorite child, no?
I know.
I'm like that with my pieces too. It's like, how do you pick one?
I will say my favorite piece now is the rosette dress, the fall
And you own this one.
the one that Lil' Kim wore.
Okay.
That's coming in, because that was a fight. And I've searched for that forever. And the one that I will continue. I mean, there are a lot I will continue searching for, but the hats from the fall 2012 Vuitton collection. There's a fellow collector who owns one, and he's incredible. And I'm so happy he has it, but I would also like one.
Okay, so you've got some stuff on the list.
Always.
We've always got stuff on the list.
Always.
Well, that's the thing with a designer with a career this long. I mean, he was at Louis Vuitton for 16 years.
Yeah, I
97
can't do
through.
math.
I think it's about 16 years.
Yeah.
So that's a hell of a lot of clothes and bags to try and find. And then
Indeed.
his own collection from 1987 onwards. I mean,
keeps us busy, keeps us hungry. I would say, I would encourage people to look at his runway shows, to watch the 2007. But one of my favorite Marc moments is when he showed up as a pigeon to his holiday party. Talk about iconic. That is my ultimate grail, is that pigeon costume. But I would just recommend, like, really for everyone to look at his runway shows, to look at his au revoir of work. I promise you, you'll see pieces that have shown up in other places that you saw them.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, you can follow Lauren. She's always putting out content about Marc Jacobs, and it's like my content, you get to really see a lot of the archive and see these amazing pieces. So I'll make sure I tag that for you guys so you can find Lauren online. But I think that wraps up Marc Jacobs. We could theoretically, and I say this a lot, we could talk about this for a lot longer, because this is a person with a huge career and so many beautiful pieces. And if you don't own an original piece of Marc Jacobs, I would look into it, because you can find them for sometimes quite inexpensive, I will say, comparative to certain things. But the designer, the collaborations for Louis Vuitton, Marc Jacobs will always, I think, hold their value. And pieces like this little fella here, the cherry, oof, I imagine that's extremely difficult to find.
She was a hunt.
Yeah, the Famois.
But as we've talked about, the hunt is so worth it, and just confirms what special pieces they are.
It's like my crack.
Same.
Finding that piece that I've been looking for forever.
Ultimate dopamine.
Oh,
hit.
it's just, you can't describe, and it's something it's just intrinsic to yourself. It's something you feel inside, like
Totally.
you just like, yes. But thank you so much, Lauren, for coming all the way to talk about Marc. I loved that. There's so much information here, and if you have any more questions, feel to reach out to either of us. Like, we're a fountain of knowledge about this.
Yes. Well, Dawn, this is such a privilege. I've so long admired your work and your podcast and everything you do, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you, guys. So join us again for the next episode, because we'll have another icon of fashion, film, TV, something amazing. So join me for the next episode. Thanks, guys, and thanks, Lauren.